King Charles has greeted crowds of well-wishers at Buckingham Palace as he arrived back in London just hours ahead of his first speech as monarch. The new king got out of his vehicle and shook hands with well-wishers who had gathered to pay their respects to the Queen and offer him their support. Queen Consort Camilla also greeted the crowds. The king's decision to interact with the crowds came as a surprise and lifted the spirits of mourners at the palace as the nation comes to terms with his mother's death. Wearing a black suit and surrounded by bodyguards, King Charles appeared relaxed and smiled as he spoke to the crowds. Some members of the public looked visibly upset and moved as they spoke to him, with some taking photographs and one kissing him on the cheek. Others shouted, "God save the King." Joining his wife, the king then walked along the palace gates looking at the tributes left to his mother. Accompanied by their team, the couple then walked inside the palace. At around 4 p.m., the Prime Minister Liz Truss was seen arriving at Buckingham Palace to meet the king. The Queen, 96, passed away, peacefully, at her Scottish residence yesterday afternoon. Charles and Princess Anne are believed to have been at her bedside. Charles automatically became king following the Queen's death. He and the Queen Consort spent the night at Balmoral before leaving around 11:15 a.m. this morning, and is due to make his first speech as king at 6 p.m. Prince William is also travelling back to his home in Windsor, Kensington Palace said, while Prince Harry was seen boarding a flight out of Aberdeen this morning. Charles's ascension to the throne means the UK has had a new monarch and Prime Minister in 48 hours, after Ms. Truss was invited to form a government by the Queen just 2 days before her death. The UK has entered a period of national mourning following the death of the Queen, with flags flying at half-mast and memorials taking place. Buckingham Palace announced that it was the King's wish that members of the royal household observe a period of mourning until 7 days after the funeral, the date of which has not yet been confirmed. Royal residences will close until after the service, including Balmoral, where she passed away. There will be no physical books of condolence at the royal residences, but an online book is available on the royal website. On the throne for 70 years from the age of 25, the Queen was the UK's longest reigning monarch. At 6 p.m., King Charles will make his first public speech as monarch, in a televised address to the nation. A memorial service is expected to take place at St. Paul's Cathedral, with Ms. Truss and other senior politicians in attendance. The House of Commons held a moment of silence just after midday to remember the Queen, before paying tribute to her in a special session from midday to 10 p.m. The tributes will continue on Saturday before Parliament is adjourned for 10 days. Gun salutes, one for each 96 years of the Queen's life, will ring out from Hyde Park and the Tower of London at 1 p.m, shortly after bells chimed at Westminster Abbey, St. Paul's Cathedral and Windsor Castle, joined by other churches across the country, at midday. Flags across government buildings are flying at half-mast, and crowds are expected to continue gathering outside the various royal residences up and down the country. Bus stops in the capital are displaying pictures of the Queen. Selfridges and Liberty closed their doors out of respect to the Queen. In Scotland, security checks are currently being carried out on the grounds of the Palace of Holyrood House, where the Queen's coffin will be taken from Balmoral. Buckingham Palace announced today that the King will be formally proclaimed at the Accession Council at 10 a.m. tomorrow morning, in the state apartments of St. James's Palace. The event will be televised for the first time in history, Clarence House confirmed today. At the meeting, the death of Queen Elizabeth will be announced by the Lord President of the Privy Council, which is currently Penny Mordaunt MP, and a proclamation will be read aloud, which traditionally includes a series of prayers and pledges commending the previous monarch and pledging support for the new one. Sporting fixtures have largely been cancelled in the wake of the Queen's death, with the Premier League announcing that this weekend's football matches will be postponed. The Cabinet Office said that there was no obligation for businesses, entertainment and arts venues or sporting bodies to suspend their activities during the national mourning period, but suggested some might consider postponing or closing events depending on their nature, location, and tone. Public services will continue as usual, although there may be some changes to service availability, the body said in its guidance on national mourning. The Cabinet Office suggested holding a period of silence or wearing black armbands if sports events are due to take place on the day of the state funeral. Filming on the hit TV series The Crown has been suspended out of respect for the Queen. The Trades Union Congress, which sees the UK's unions come together, has also been postponed. Organisers confirmed that the Great North Run, due on Sunday, will be going ahead as planned, suggesting it could be a time for people to come together and express our condolences, and, as a charity event, was a fitting tribute to the Queen. However, it said that elements of the experience would be more subdued, out of respect to the royals. Fears grew for the Queen's health after Buckingham Palace made a rare update at 12:30 p.m. yesterday, announcing that doctors were concerned about her well-being and that she was under medical supervision. Members of the royal family rushed to Balmoral to be with her, with Princess Anne was already staying there. Then Prince Charles was understood to have arrived by helicopter yesterday morning, with Prince William, Prince Andrew and the Earl and Countess of Wessex arriving a short time afterwards on a private plane. Prince Harry left Balmoral at around 8:20 a.m. this morning, having arrived around 12 hours earlier, after the announcement of the Queen's death. He had travelled alone, with the Duchess of Sussex not in attendance, and was the last to reach Balmoral. He was later seen boarding a plane at Aberdeen Airport. Tributes continued to pour in for the Queen this morning. The Archbishop of Canterbury said that the country felt its permanence rocked in the wake of the Queen's death. It is hard to imagine a world without her, in Her Majesty's life. We can be inspired, he said on BBC Radio 4's Today programme. Others shared their memories of the Queen, with the Bishop of Leicester fondly recalling how she taught him to play cards. I was also invited for a weekend at Sandringham with the Queen and Prince Philip, an extraordinary weekend in all sorts of different ways, he said. My memory of it, in particular playing cards with the Queen, which was quite extraordinary. So she taught me how to play patience, a very particular form of patience that she often played when there were lots of guests around, I think, and when I admitted that I didn't know how to play it, she taught me, so that's a memory that will live with me long. Former Prime Minister Theresa May said audiences with the Queen were the only meetings where she knew everything would remain private. She recalled how their weekly meetings involved talking about the affairs of the day, in a sense tapping into her wisdom and that knowledge that she had from her great experience. Ms. May told BBC Radio 4's Today programme that the Queen would pass on the knowledge that she had of the people, a lot of the people that the Prime Minister, that I, was dealing with. She was a very acute judge of people and was able often to give those little, if you like, pen portraits of people that she knew, that she'd met. And sometimes it was a case of not just the individual but actually a sort of history of that individual, of her experiences of particular countries, particular issues. She added, there was often that twinkle in the eye, and that magnificent smile that would break out and that calmed so many people's nerves and made so many people feel at ease. Quote,